Dalam sesi Spotlight Forum ini, kita ada wakil dari UNICEF yang akan menyentuh tentang pendigitalan, juga wakil dari Indonesia yang kami terbangkan khas untuk warga Persidangan bagi perkongsian inisiatif transformasi yang dijalankan di Indonesia. Begitu juga, kita akan mendengar wakil dari Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia mengenai dengan polisi dan hala tuju. Tanpa membuang masa lagi, majlis dengan segala hormatnya menyerahkan sesi seterusnya kepada Tuan Moderator Forum yang akan dikendalikan oleh Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Mehender Singh, Ahli Majlis Penasihat Pendidikan Kebangsaan Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Dipersilakan.
Selamat pagi dan selamat sejahtera. A very good morning to all. Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri dan Datuk dan semua para hadirin sekalian. Terima kasih kerana dapat bersama dalam majlis kita hari ini. Untuk sesi forum, dan dalam seperti forum-forum lain, satu kelebihan forum adalah kita dapat membina jaringan dengan rakan-rakan yang berada dalam bidang yang sama, iaitu pendidikan. Selain daripada mendengar apa yang disampaikan oleh dalam ceramah-ceramah dan juga dalam forum. Dalam forum ini kita akan mengutamakan the magic of listening and being listened to. So forum ini akan mengetengahkan satu sesi yang akan seperti yang disebut oleh Puan pengacara dan Tuan pengacara kita, orang muda kita pada pagi ini. Terima kasih kepada semua sekali lagi, dan izinkan saya untuk menyentuh tentang tema bagi forum kita pada pagi ini. The theme of our forum. Saya beritahu kepada ahli panel sebelum ini bahawa saya akan gunakan 3 bahasa. Bahasa Inggeris, bahasa Malaysia dan bahasa Punjabi. Dan bahasa Punjabi itu saya seorang saja akan faham. Kecuali mereka yang lihat filem Shah Rukh Khan. Saya bergurau saja. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, so kita akan gunakan 2 bahasa tersebut kerana dalam nak menyampaikan satu-satu pesanan yang membawa satu implikasi dan impak kepada pemikiran kita, kadang-kadang lebih sesuai kita utarakan dalam bahasa Malaysia. Dan ada pula yang kita nak istilahkan dalam bahasa Inggeris, maka kita boleh gunakan bahasa Inggeris. Tetamu kita Puan Juliana daripada Indonesia juga faham bahasa Indonesia, dia boleh berbual dalam bahasa Indonesia, maka dia biasa juga dengan bahasa Malaysia. So tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, jangan terkejut bila dengar tajuk tema kita ialah Education Transformation, the Way Forward. Bila saya cuba nak mengupas, nak meletak betul premis untuk perbincangan kita pada pagi ini. What's the basis of our discussion today? Kita rasa besar tajuknya sebut istilah transformasi, iaitu membawa satu perubahan. Dan bahagian keduanya, the way forward, bagaimana kita nak ke depan, how do we move on? Dan bagaimana ke dalam panel yang pelbagai ini, dan dengan audience yang ramai datang, mostly from schools, how do we zero in kepada sesi ini? Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, a strategy or a transformation starts with an idea. Selalunya dari atas ke bawah. Tapi pada zaman sekarang, banyak diutarakan bottom up. Jadi idea itu, that ideas must come from school. If one teacher has an idea on how to improve English language skills among children, and if it works, another teacher is going to follow and do the same. And then it moves on to another school. that becomes a best practice and that becomes a strategy. And from there, a strategy can then lead to a transformation. So if you are going to say, saya hanya guru di sekolah, bagaimana saya nak bawa transformasi? Itu tidak tepat kerana anda boleh membawa transformasi itu. You can bring that transformation even though you are in school, because it's your idea that will be carried forward. And that will become a strategy, and that strategy will be part of an organization, and that organization will drive the transformation. But that's enough said from me. Let me introduce our speakers for today. Right next to me is Dr. Nur Saidatul Amin. She is the Senior Deputy Director of the Educational Planning and Research Division in the Ministry of Education. She has vast experience in educational policy and development. She has been there for the last 24 years. And most importantly, Dr. Nur Saidatul was my student in the master's program. So what greater honor can it be for a teacher when your student is the panel member in a forum and you are the moderator, right? So it's a great honor for me. Of course, she was a good student. And she does say that I was one of the best lecturers. So there were about 34, so I was one of the 34. Dr. Nur Saidatul obtained a PhD in educational planning from Murdoch University. And her Masters of Science, which I was involved in, was with UNIMAS, joint program with Institute Aminuddin Baki. She received a B.Ed in TESOL from University Kebangsaan Malaysia. Dr. Nur Saidatul today, as mentioned by our pengacara muda kita, will be speaking from the perspective of policy from the Education Ministry. Of course, it's very broad, but through our small syndications that we had before this forum, we're going to zero in on certain aspects. Next panel member is Puan Azlina. Kamal. She was a high-flying officer in the Ministry of Education before Dr. Nur Anwar, who's with Yayasan Hasana, hijacked her and channeled her to UNICEF. And she never came back after that, thanks to Dr. Nur Anwar. Because he was in UNICEF, when he left to come back to the ministry, he suggested Azlina to be there. I'm just joking. Of course, she's there because of a great, excellent performance, right? She was with the English Language Teaching Center, Training Center, and currently she is the education specialist and lead in Malaysia. She provides overall leadership and technical guidance for the strategic development, implementation, and evaluation of education programs within the country programs, right? She graduated with distinction from the University of Kent and UCL Institute of Education London, specializing in educational leadership and management, and was a recipient of the British Chevening Award. Right? One round of applause for our second speaker. And our third speaker for today, as mentioned, flown in from Jakarta, I believe, and very well known in education, the head of development program and Guru Bena, a foundation, Putera Sampoerna Foundation School, and a development outreach. She attained her Bachelor of Education and specialized in special education for master's program and in educational management. She has been involved in many presentations and paper presentations and also publications. Today we will get to hear an on-the-ground perspective of what efforts and initiatives are going on in some parts of Indonesia and her personal experience in formulating the way forward for education. And finally, a young man who has got similar length of hair like me, except that I have a turban, but his can be seen, right? Very enterprising. I was very impressed when we had our meeting online, how his organization, Edmund, has been involved in many efforts to spearhead and propel education in Malaysia. He has touched the lives, or the organization has touched the lives of nearly 200,000 students. And the number of hits, I believe, are in the millions by the students on all the online programs that they have prepared for students in the country. He is the founder of EduNation, now known as Backflix, a complete video resource for school students with more than 6,000 videos for all major subjects. He is now the co-founder of Tupai.ai. Let him explain what Tupai stands for, an organization that is building a fully autonomous AI teacher for math. So ladies and gentlemen, that's with the introduction of our panel speakers. And for our first round, we will be providing each panel member between 5 to 7 minutes for the first session. Let me start with the first question. The advent of technology advancement and the COVID-19 pandemic has catalyzed education transformation. What are, or what were, or what will be some of the challenges in addressing or curating the education transformation journey in Malaysia, in the region, or even in a global context from your respective perspectives? And for this, let me start with Azlina first.
Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Is it afternoon now? Yeah, good morning. Really wonderful to be with all of you. When I first entered the room, I could feel the wonderful buzzing energies of teachers. There's a special energy with teachers. I always feel, because you are the unsung heroes of our education system. When we talk about transforming education, you are with our children daily working on transforming the system. So it gives me great pleasure and privilege to be with you today. So on your question, Dato', I thought what would be helpful to set the scene would be to share a little bit about what we learned. As you know, UNICEF works in 193 countries and territories. So we have a lot of data and lessons that we've learned as a result of the pandemic. COVID, what COVID did was to exacerbate, make it worse, okay? Make it lebih teruk all the challenges, kekangan-kekangan that we had, right? All the challenges that were already there in the education system, right? When it came to equity, for example. So I will just go through some very quick statistics. Even before COVID, we had more than 250 million children who were out of school. We had, even when children were in school, 38% of children were not learning the basic skills. We had 1 in 2 children with disabilities not accessing education. And during COVID, we had nearly 500 million children, and 80 million of these children were in East Asia Pacific, not having access to any kind of online learning. Right? So there's a huge number of children. In Malaysia, in a survey, we had 36% of children in the urban area without a single device. 35% in the rural area. So we know 1 in 3 children were without any access to learning. Right? So this is one of the greatest challenge when it came to the pandemic. And when I also look at the challenges as an entry point to opportunities, in terms of how we can then look at where we prioritize and how we prioritize our efforts moving forward. Not just in terms of looking at like how do we survive, how do we go back to or move forward towards learning recovery, but also to look at how we build resilience in the system. COVID is not the only shock to the education system that we will face. There will be future shocks to the system. So how can we all work together at a system level, at an institution level, for example, school level, and also at the individual level, right? So at different points in time. So child poverty was one of the link to digital divide was very clear, right? And so these are things, and we know internet channels only reach 24% of school children globally. That's one issue, right? So I'll talk a little bit about what we are doing later. But the other issue also with COVID and with the advent of digitalization and moving everything to remote and digital learning, there were also implications, and you, Cikgu, you will know this more than others, in terms of the whole nature of the activity of teaching. There were issues. Some people continued with it, but then there were issues with how teachers conduct online learning. Some were able to do it, some were not able to do it. So then there is the issue of how do we now look at preparation of teachers, for example. But there is also a danger that all we've done really is to transplant digitalization into the existing teaching and learning activity. When any kind of technology, we don't use technology because it is innovative in and of itself. We use technology in teaching and learning because our primary goal is to strengthen teaching and learning. So it's not an end in itself, right? So we want to look at how technology can be used to strengthen quality of learning, equity in learning, as well as in inclusion. And I'll share some examples later on how we've done this with the Ministry of Education through Delima. So I'm not sure, Dato', do I still have a bit more time? Or I do still have time. I'm very conscious about going on and on. Being a teacher, you know that we can go on and on. So I think it didn't just change the nature of teaching and learning, but also in terms of assessment, in terms of the roles and rules of engagement between teachers and students, that whole nature of the teaching learning process and activity, right? And so if we're looking at building systems for the future, how do we then look at ways in which we build resilience, we make sure that it's, I don't like the word future-proofing because I don't think we really can future-proof anything, but to see how we can strengthen and enable the system, also looking at data, right? So in terms of how we collect and gather data so that when we look at interventions, it's not the same for everybody, right? So what we tend to do is that, devices are great, let's do that for everybody. But then people have very different realities. And I think one of the challenge is to look at how we build programs with the most marginalized children in mind first. Because the tendency always is to build systems for the mainstream. And then we say, we have this, how do we bring the marginalized in? The best way to design programs is to start with the most marginalized child. And marginalization is not a homogeneous concept. When we look at layers and levels of marginalization, we need to think about, does the child have, for example, devices, connectivity, urban poor maybe, lives far from school, has a disability, has to help the family with income generation. So there are various layers and levels of marginalization, and the more we know, the more we're able to look at more targeted interventions. I'll stop there and then continue later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Azlina. That was 6 minutes and 56 seconds. Fantastic timing. Coming from background of sports, time is very important. Determine whether you're going to break a record or not. But thank you for raising kerana dapat mengutarakan beberapa poin yang penting bahawa COVID-19 pandemik ni, it was not a routine problem. It was an emerging problem yang tiba-tiba wujud, right? And how we went through, dan beberapa juta di luar sana yang telah terjejas pendidikan mereka. And you raised a point about bukan saja tentang assessment, but it's also about PDP and everything else associated with education. The learning loss, the teaching loss, the learning deficit, all that was a part of the implication. So thank you for that. Let's move on to Edmund. Edmund, like I said, you have been involved in a very major program with so many kids. Let's listen to what most of the specific challenges that you faced and, of course, the success stories.
Okay, challenges. You know, I've been trying to look at supporting children in their learning for a decade. I mean, many of you here have been doing it for more than a decade, but I've been looking at it for a decade. And through my journeys, been to schools where, you know, I remember very clearly, there was these two schools in Klang where 86% of all their kids from Form 1 to Form 5 fail math. 86%. And that includes Form 1 kids. And if Form 1 kids, 86% of these Form 1 kids are failing math, it actually means they can't really count. Okay, and that problem goes on every year until they finish Form 5. I've just recently, I've seen a school, 82% fail their math. The school where I came from, I grew up in, and I won't name names here, of course, but these kids these schools in PJ used to be some of the best schools in the state 2 decades ago. Now 50% of all their kids fail their math. And these numbers are mind-boggling because when I was in school in PJ, that wasn't the case. There was that one class at the back of 8 classes that was struggling and they were regularly failing. Now it's half of that, and in some schools even more. So when it comes to challenges, right, that is the thing that for the last decade has just stuck in here. And the question is, what do we do? How do we help them? And so in order to delve into how to help them, we first have to understand what the issue is. And throughout our journey, I've come to the conclusion that the biggest challenge we have in helping our children is the fact that there's not enough resources to help them. A teacher in a well-enrolled public school in Malaysia, a math teacher, for example, they handle 5 classes of 40 kids. So that's 200 children that a teacher is trying to help. And how many of you here handle close to those numbers? You know, please raise your hands. How many of you handle more than 100 kids at a time? Okay, just one. Okay, the rest of you are fine. No problem. And so, I mean, if you're a math teacher trying to help 200 kids and each kid asks one question a week, you are overwhelmed. There is no time. So that has to change, which is why we went down the route of trying to build EduNation. We made all these videos, but it still wasn't enough, right? So not only do students not have enough resources to help them, teachers themselves don't have enough resources to help the kids. Because if you could help every child you meet, you would, right? For all the teachers I've known, they spend the first few years of their teaching careers in the staff room toilet crying. And they cry, and chances are you have too, right? I mean, I see some of you, I see your faces, and you're like, yeah, saya pernah. They spend their time crying in the toilet because they can't help every child, and it kills them inside. So the question is, what if you could? What if you could help every child? What if help is coming? And that is, I think, the basis of the things that I'm going to cover later with what we're trying to do with building a fully autonomous AI teacher. Right. So not only do students have enough resources, teachers do not have enough resources to help so many kids. And not only that, I'm sure the district officers do not have enough resources to help teachers, and it goes on and on and on. The problem is resources used to cost a lot of money, a lot, like a mind-boggling amount of money. The good news is, my friends, is that cost is mostly going to evaporate with the advent of technology. You will be able to have 10 times the number of teachers that you used to have in schools. Even more, if you ask me. Students will be able to get help 24/7, anytime they need any help. And all of that at a fraction of what we're spending in education today. So that's...
Thank you, Edmund. I think you have got us thinking about the resources and how we can support children. One, we'll call it kata hikmah, that always comes into my mind. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. So we have to use, you have 200 students, of course it's very, very challenging, but that has been happening for the last, 60, 70 years since education has been in Malaysia, and that always is a big challenge for us. But I must say, many teachers have succeeded. That's what, like Azlina said, you are the unsung heroes. Kita boleh bagi satu tepukan kepada semua guru yang ada di sini pada pagi ini. Yeah, you are the driving force behind our education system. So thank you, Edmund. And let's move on to Juliana. Juliana, we'd like to now explore what you have been doing on the ground and your success stories, and of course, before that, the challenges.
Okay. Thank you. So first of all, thank you for inviting me here. I see happy faces here. Teachers, if you are teachers, can you please raise your hands? Wow, you are awesome. Because today is actually your event, not our event. If you see those students right there showcasing their work, is actually your work. It's your process that you eventually come here. Is there any school leaders here? Principals? Principals? Cikgu, Bapak Ibu, principals, you have an amazing teachers. So never ever say, saya hanya guru. Because from your hands, ada dokter, ada lawyers, ada the other teachers, and ada TikTokers and other jobs or professions that you never think before. Then I come here just to share my thoughts and our key learning and journeys together with Sampoerna Foundations. I'm so happy that I eventually meet Yayasan Amir. What we are actually facing is quite similar with you. So when the first time I came here and then see all those showcase, it was just like I meet with my teachers, because what we are doing is actually similar to what everyone is doing here. We have the same vision, just to escalate the learning quality, not only with teachers, but also with the school principals and also the students. When we are talking about the challenges, at the beginning, the challenges started during the pandemic. Who doesn't care about the pandemic? Everybody cares about the pandemic. When the pandemic hits us, it's actually a big slap for us. We think that we say that we are friends with the digital technology. We have social media, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. Who here doesn't have Instagram? Everybody has, right? But when the pandemic hits us, none of us are actually befriend with technology because we are confused. We don't know what we are doing in the class. Then moving forward, I think technology and I think pandemic also has a negative side of a coin and also a positive side of a coin. It's really a wake up call for us. In Indonesia, my teachers, our teachers, they've got social media, they've got Facebook, they've got Instagram, but they don't have emails. And that's actually the first time when we have to help them step by step to create an email because their email in the social media was actually created by their daughters or their neighbors or their friends. And that's actually the real case that we are facing. So talking about the challenges, I would like to highlight on our digital literacy skills. We have 24/7 online learning resources, but the problem is that can we actually personalize that learning resources to our classroom? Can we personalize, can we individualize that online learning resources to our students' needs? Sometimes we just pick and plug and play, but we don't really think about what actually the needs of our students. And that's, I think, in my opinion, that's the biggest challenge. The second biggest challenge is assessment. From my point of view, current assessment is no longer an assessment. It has to be an ongoing process. So the traditional method of the assessment should be revamped. And that's also a challenge. I think a majority of us, not only in Malaysia, but also in Indonesia, and mostly in Indonesia, we have facing so many challenges in doing assessment. What we are doing is actually paper pencil test, but then when pandemic hits us, we cannot rely on the paper pencil test. We should move forward to the portfolios assessment and other assessment that I think is much more authentic. The third one, I think in my opinion, would be the most challenge is how to promote our students' well-being. Because with the data is everywhere, especially the digital resources, anyone can access to our students' data. And I think that is the most dangerous thing that we really have to be aware as the teachers, as their parents, and as their friends to also think about their mental health and the well-being of our students. So I think that's also the three highlights of our challenges Pasca and pra-COVID.
Thank you, Juliana. And seems to be like some of our challenges are the same, right? From a centralized and also a decentralized kind of approach to education. Finally, let me move on to Dr. Saidatul. How do we systemize with so many challenges in education? How do we derive policies that fit for a centralized education system like Malaysia? And what are the challenges? Of course, it's very easy on the outside, but what are the challenges for the Ministry of Education in carrying forward and some of the initiatives that are taken to address this? Yes, Dr. Saidatul.
Right. Kanak-kanak bermain hujan, berkejar-kejaran sehingga penat. Pendidikan sering menjadi perhatian. Jadi kami berbesar hati untuk berkongsi maklumat. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Tuan Moderator, Datuk Mahendra, my fellow panelists and audience. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting MOE today to be part of the spotlight. Now, saya tahu kenapa dipanggil spotlight because there's many spotlights in the hall. Yeah, but it's okay. Actually, we are the spotlight today. Right, talking about challenges Dato' and tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, dan apabila saya mendengar daripada rakan daripada Indonesia, yes, I agree Dato', we have some similarities when it comes to when we talk about challenges. And from Azlina and Edmund, mendengar banyak challenges and some of the initiatives that have been planned and implemented by other agencies. And dan dalam bidang pendidikan, I would like to take all of us back to 2020 when the pandemic hit us. Malaysia was not only affected, in fact the whole world was affected, and we were not ready. At that time, none of us, tak ada siapa daripada kita yang sangka akan berlaku pandemic, but it happened, and all of us were affected. Dan when it comes to education, of course, banyak perubahan, banyak isu, challenges yang berlaku. From going to school every day, anak-anak kita bila during the pandemic, they woke up and they had to face the laptop or tablets or whatever device they have at home in order to attend schools. So salah satu cabaran or challenges untuk Kementerian Pendidikan yang kami nampak pada masa itu adalah readiness in terms of students, our teachers, readiness dari segi parents readiness as well, and also infrastructure. Okay, when we talk about students readiness, pada masa itu the challenge was to adopt and adapt a new method, a new learning method, cara pembelajaran yang lain daripada yang biasa. And at that time, maybe kita semua pun pada masa itu we were first introduced to the what we call that new norm. Before the pandemic, pernah tak kita guna new norm? But during the pandemic, we started using new norm. So everything turned to new norm, even pembelajaran. And also for teachers were not ready at that time to teach online. Dan saya ada juga dengar cerita-cerita seperti pengalaman daripada guru-guru. I'm sure rakan-rakan guru di bawah sana pun di dalam dewan ni pernah experience it. Di mana apabila guru tu mengajar, mula-mula boleh dengarlah suara kanak-kanak, suara murid, responding to the teachers. But after a few minutes, suddenly the class became quiet. That was a challenge for teachers. Memang totally different kalau dalam classroom yang fizikal, guru-guru kena handle anak-anak, murid-murid untuk berdiam. Tapi bila online, guru-guru tak perlu pun suruh anak-anak tu diam. Mereka dengan sendiri tiba-tiba je diam. Dan guru tu pun terfikir, saya dia mengajar seorang-seorang ke? Hello, guru-guru pun start communicate dengan murid. Okay, so itu satu pengalaman yang guru-guru experience during the pandemic. Mungkin satu kita nampak macam masalah, tapi saya rasa itu satu kenangan yang manis apabila kita mengajar secara online. Okay, for teachers. And also readiness among parents. Tiba-tiba during pandemic, parents had extra role to make sure that their children attend schools at home, to monitor their children using the laptop. So ibu bapa pun kena be alert. Cikgu dah WhatsApp kelas pukul 7.45. So parents must make sure anak-anak mereka masuk kelas pukul 7.45. Okay. And another thing which we feel is also important in terms of infrastructure, which we were not ready then. But Alhamdulillah banyak inisiatif sekarang kita dah ambil, Kementerian Pendidikan bersama-sama our partners. We didn't work alone on this to make sure to provide sufficient infrastructure so that this teaching and learning continues dan dapat dilaksanakan secara kondusif and also effective. And I also agree with Juliana, when it comes to assessment, yes, another challenge, assessment. Kita dah biasa dengan ujian, paper-based assessment. Suddenly during the pandemic, when the pandemic hit us, we had to go online. Itu pun satu challenge yang sangat besar saya rasa untuk guru-guru. How to evaluate our students? Bagaimana kita nak tahu pencapaian ataupun apa yang kita ajar secara online efektif? Anak-anak murid kita faham. So that's also a big challenge for our teachers. But alhamdulillah along the way banyak inisiatif yang kita laksanakan, and alhamdulillah today all of us survived. We managed and we survived. So guru-guru semua tahniah ya kerana berjaya melalui satu fasa yang memang luar biasa, yang tak dijangka, but we managed and we survived. So Datuk, that's all for now. Saya akan elaborate lagi selepas ini.
Thank you, Dr. Saidatul. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard from the first round of reflection on the question of the challenges that we faced. But when we speak about transformation, it's not only transformation yang muncul daripada pandemik. Transformation in education dah mula sebelum pandemik pun. Perkara-perkara yang kita nak ubah dalam sistem pendidikan. Hanya pandemik telah memangkinkan lagi perkara-perkara yang perlu kita beri perhatian dalam bidang pendidikan. Dan bagaimana kita nak menangani isu-isu dalam bidang pendidikan, itu menjadi cabaran kepada semua. Kita dengar tentang cabaran tentang resource yang disebut oleh Puan Juliana tadi, the resources that are needed. Kita tahu dan juga disebut oleh Edmund tadi tentang resources that are needed. Bukan saja oleh guru, murid, tapi juga di peringkat PPD dan sebagainya. Dan kita telah merangka pelbagai program untuk menangani isu ini. So tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kita tahu bahawa untuk ke depan, the way forward, kita terpaksa melihat dan menyelami isu-isu ini dan bagaimana kita nak merangka masa depan dalam bidang pendidikan ini. So untuk perkara itu, we know that those challenges will always be there in education. Maybe you could share with us what are some of the initiatives, right, that can be taken for the way forward. And I would love to open this. I would not like to sequence it. Who would like to speak first or share their thoughts first? I'll leave it to anyone. Okay, Dr. Sai, all right.
Okay, Datuk Azlina dah sebut saya, so saya kena jawab lah ya. Okay, thank you Datuk. Okay, untuk dari segi way forward, dari segi peringkat Kementerian Pendidikan and also dasar, saya setuju apa yang Datuk sebut tadi. Sebenarnya cabaran-cabaran dalam pendidikan ni sentiasa ada even before pandemic. It's just that when the pandemic happened, dia menjadi lebih kritikal ataupun lebih mencabar. Ya? Dan untuk way forward, after 2 to 3 years kita melalui satu suasana yang agak berbeza dan mencabar, ya. Kementerian Pendidikan telah melaksanakan pelbagai inisiatif dan kami juga telah melihat apakah perkara ataupun bagaimana kita nak susun ataupun bagaimana kita nak strategize our initiatives, our perancangan supaya ia lebih teratur, lebih sistematik dan kita boleh bergerak daripada sesuatu, maknanya kita boleh bergerak daripada sesuatu yang asas dan terus, ya, kita teruskan usaha kita. Jadi untuk itu saya percaya rakan-rakan guru dalam Dewan ini juga pernah dengar 7 teras utama Kementerian Pendidikan. Pernah dengar ke? 7 teras. Ya, di mana-mana YB Menteri Pendidikan pun sentiasa, ya, bercakap tentang 7 teras. Ya, baik. 7 teras ini pada masa ini merupakan asas kepada Kementerian Pendidikan untuk kita bergerak, merancang dan menyusun strategi untuk mengatasi isu-isu pendidikan, untuk meningkatkan lagi kualiti pendidikan. Jadi dan juga apa yang kita bincang hari ini, contohnya dari segi digital, memang telah diambil kira dalam 7 teras ini. Jadi apakah 7 teras yang sentiasa disebut oleh YB Menteri Pendidikan, even dalam portal Kementerian Pendidikan pun kita selalu dengar, macam dalam iklan-iklan pun selalu kita dengar 7 teras pendidikan. Yang pertama tentang komunikasi. Komunikasi daripada kementerian ke JPN, PPD ke sekolah, antara levels dan juga komunikasi internal, secara internal is very important. Contohnya apa yang berlaku semasa pandemik. Mula-mula kementerian perlu memikirkan bagaimana kita nak overcome. Guru-guru semua di rumah, anak-anak murid semua di rumah. We need to have some guidelines for teachers to teach online. Jadi kita keluarkan beberapa garis panduan. Dalam tempoh school closure ada garis panduan. Okey, dah ada garis panduan. How do we disseminate the garis panduan? And how do we make sure the garis panduan sampai ke sekolah? Kerana di sekolah lah yang akan laksanakan garis panduan tersebut. So di sini communication memang memain peranan yang penting untuk apa-apa saja dasar ataupun perancangan yang kita introducekan di peringkat kementerian sampai ke sekolah dan dilaksanakan seperti yang dihasratkan oleh kementerian. Okey. Yang kedua tentang kemiskinan multidimensi. Okey, kita bukan saja cakap kemiskinan kewangan tetapi juga kemiskinan multidimensi. Contohnya kemiskinan dari segi nutrisi, malnutrition among anak-anak murid. Kemiskinan devices, peranti untuk anak-anak murid. Kemiskinan dari segi ruang untuk anak-anak murid kita belajar selain daripada sekolah. So itu juga diambil kira dalam 7 teras, dan di sini juga penting kerana it will lead to pembangunan ataupun pembinaan karakter murid. That is what Menteri sering sebut sekarang karamah insaniah. Itu sesuatu yang sangat penting yang kita nak terapkan, nak kita wujudkan. Kemudian teras yang ketiga dari segi learning loss, dari segi pembelajaran, literacy, numeracy, itu juga berlaku dan itu juga menjadi salah satu teras utama Kementerian Pendidikan. Dan yang keempat tentang yang kelima tentang guru, yang guru, kebajikan guru. Baik, kebajikan guru ni memang satu kumpulan yang amat penting dalam Kementerian Pendidikan, sebab guru yang akan melaksanakan, guru akan mendidik dan memastikan pencapaian murid-murid. Dan seterusnya tentang pendidikan digital. Ini yang sering kita dengar sekarang lah, dan even kita pun telah meluncur ataupun memperkenalkan dasar pendidikan digital. Dan akhir sekali tentang sekolah daif, pembinaan sekolah-sekolah, bangunan daif di sekolah, terutamanya di Sabah dan Sarawak. So ini adalah 7 teras pendidikan yang menjadi asas kepada kita untuk move forward, untuk kita bergerak ke hadapan. Dan ia menjadi rujukan kepada semua, even kepada pemutus dasar. Dan perkara ini untuk maklumat tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, memang kita ada banyak inisiatif, ada KPI tertentu Datuk, untuk kita pastikan apa yang kita rancang ini dapat dilaksanakan. Ada KPI yang perlu kita capai setiap tahun. Tapi bagaimana apapun KPI kita, apapun inisiatif kita, kita tak lari daripada 7 teras ini. Ini adalah guideline kita pada masa ini. Datuk.
Terima kasih Dr. Saidato. Kita boleh menerima iktibar daripada perkara-perkara yang disebut, dan saya rasa 7 teras yang disebut oleh Dr. Saidato itu merupakan satu penjalin jambatan untuk kita membawa ke transformasi pendidikan. Tapi kita meneliti fundamental issues dalam pendidikan. supaya kita dapat selesaikan the fundamental issue sementara kita nak bergerak ke depan itu. So kita teruskan sesi kita dengan Puan Azlina dan bagaimana satu organisasi multilateral seperti UNICEF dan apakah isu-isu dalam pendidikan yang telah kita dengar, the challenges, now the way forward. Apakah cara jalan atau usaha yang nampak jelas bagi kita untuk, we are not sure, nothing is predictive, right, tentang masa depan. Tapi apa yang terbaik?
Okay, Assalamualaikum once again. So, saya nak share because I thought it would be helpful untuk cikgu-cikgu to share more specifically some of the issues yang saya telah highlight tadi on challenges, on teacher capacity, on looking at strengthening teaching and learning, on not using technology for technology's sake, etc. And how UNICEF is working and plans to work dengan kementerian dan partners in this area. So Logan, if I can request for the slide to be on the... So while Logan, okay, yep, great. So this is a quick presentation yang saya akan buat melalui delima. So Malaysia was very lucky because kita telah ada some kind of platform for online learning when the pandemic hit. Right? So we had the Google Classroom and then we relaunched it as Delima and recently as Delima 2.0, right? Ataupun Delima berwajah baru, right? But this is an opportunity for us to build back better, to build back stronger, and to build back more inclusively. So what are some of the things that we've done to incorporate some of these challenges that we've talked about earlier? Next. Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to do the next. Okay, very good. Logan, I did it. Because Logan said everyone's having problems with it. So one of the key programs that we work on adalah Future Skills for All. So kalau cikgu-cikgu pergi ke Delima, Future Skills for All ni adalah RBT, Asas Sains Komputer dan Sains Komputer. So ini nama glamour dia lah, okay? So tapi it is aligned to our curriculum berdasarkan curriculum RBT, ASK dan SK, right? So semua program ni kita bekerjasama dengan Kementerian Pendidikan dan kita ada various partners lah, MDEC, Salcom DG, sekarang ni kita, and our implementing partners Arus, right? So what do we do di dalam ni? Now, mulanya it's only a series of videos. So ada seorang guru explain macam mana nak hook up all the different connections, looking at different things, right? Tapi where we wanted to add value, because it's not just about technology, kita pasang lah lampu and that's great, but we also want some kind of meaningful learning untuk anak-anak kita. So what we did was we brought in satu on the inclusivity. Kita bekerjasama dengan Malaysia Federation of the Deaf to do the sign language. Kita move kepada anak-anak with disability, with hearing impairment to actually do the sign language because we also want to feature children with disability and to normalize disability. That's one. Then we got children, girls, to host the videos. So yang the first iteration tu, we couldn't do anything about it. When UNICEF came in, they were ready. But the second iteration, we have 4 girls hosting the program, talking about what is the problem and how can they use apa yang mereka belajar dalam RBT untuk menyelesaikan a real world problem around them, linking it to the SDG. So there is connection between the mind as well as the application, right? And also to be able to identify issues of importance and to make meaningful change around you. So we had projects like this young boy who said, I am designing a coding program that reminds adults every few minutes to take a break from the screen, for example. Simple things, but using coding to do this, right? And we want to build in all that pemikiran, creative, kritis that we always talk about, but to do it within a growth mindset. So that's one. And the other thing that we've done also is to look, so we realize, so the question then is, what if anak-anak tu tak boleh access delima because we know 1 in 3 couldn't access online learning, tak ada gadget. We also came up with offline learning packs, right? Supaya anak tu still boleh belajar. So this is what I talk about layers and levels of marginalization. So if we're thinking, okay, delima is one, but kalau tak ada delima macam mana? Kalau tak ada connectivity macam mana? So what can we do different things? And this is also one of the opportunities to look at multiple modalities to learning and to look at different learning pathways supaya anak-anak kita tak kisah apa kekangan dia or layer or level of marginalization can still have access to the same quality learning material, right? I think as educators, we believe that, right? It doesn't mean that if our children are marginalized, then anything is better than nothing. We want them to have access to the same quality learning materials. And we have built that global citizenship framework, which activates the mind, the emotions, as well as the actions. And this program has also been, under the YSELI program, expanded to Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, so that they can translate it to the languages of those countries and work with marginalized communities so that they can also learn about coding. So this is one of the key things that we've worked on to show how digital transformation can be inclusive. The next one is on global citizenship education. We align the curriculum for math, science, history, and geography with the requirements of global citizenship education and education for sustainable development. And during COVID, so on Delima, you'll also find these lessons. And during COVID, we also had projects for children because we knew children couldn't go out of their house. There was a lot of depression for young people, no socializing. And so what we then did was to get them to look at what are projects that, what is around you, what is an issue that you are interested in solving or working on. So like some children say, oh, I see a lot of stray animals in my taman and I want to do something. What can I do about that? So that became like a lesson as well, right? So math, science, history, geography is based on the curriculum, but we also did something extra for children to investigate. The other thing that we worked on also was on voices of COVID generation because we wanted children to have a voice. So UNICEF has this adolescent toolkit for innovation and expression that we use that to then get children to talk about how they were experiencing COVID. And again, we had COVID-themed lessons looking at math, science, history, dan geography. So kalau cikgu-cikgu tahu, for secondary school, for example, kita ada how diseases travel or history of diseases. So that can be geography and maths. Every day that we got the statistics, that became a maths lesson. Looking at cells, for example, and how they spread, that was a science lesson. So we also did a COVID-themed lesson, right? Next again, me. Now, those are for children, but what about teachers? We talked about, all of us have talked about teacher readiness. We also had a program on community guru digital learning because we realized teachers were not ready or some had difficulties and a lot of cikgu kata dia tak boleh follow all those webinars sebab webinars tu are a specific time. They had children that they had to take care of. So we got feedback from about 1,300 teachers in 4 days. And we introduced Community Guru Digital Learning. It's still there on Delima. There are different ways in which, how do you start an online class? How do you prepare interactive online materials? How do you, for example, assess learners? We also had a module on accessibility feature supaya cikgu boleh belajar how to use accessibility feature untuk anak-anak with disability, right? And this one was very early on identified as a promising practice out of 147 or 27 countries. And it's also been one of the UNICEF global best practice because MOE was really fast. Dato', I will take 2 more minutes and I just very quickly. Next, me again. From Community Guru, we got teachers to work on actually, once they go through the module, to work on the samples of learning materials. So cikgu-cikgu, under community guru, if you go on Delima, kat bawah tu you can see bank sumber KGDL. Ada about 1,600 materials yang cikgu-cikgu have produced. It's been accessed more than 150,000 times. So you can go, you can personalize it. You can tukar lah all the Google documents, the borang and everything to personalize it to your own learning untuk anak-anak, your students, right? So that's one. And kita ada dashboard so we know who is looking at what and how we can improve that. With Community Guru, we're going to work with Bahagian Sumber Teknologi Pendidikan to update it so that it mirrors the standard competency guru under the National Digital Education Policy, so that you will then also have that to accompany that. Next, again me, sorry. And I just wanted to share all this work that we've done has been included as Global Best Practice for Transforming Education Summit. The UN General Assembly had a Transforming Education Summit, and the work on Delima that we've done with the ministry, which the ministry has led actually. So congratulations to Kementerian, including all of you, cikgu-cikgu, which are part of the Kementerian, as a global best practice. We also have been recently identified as a learning pioneer country. So Malaysia is one of 6 countries globally as a learning pioneer country, and how we can look at strengthening digital transformation. So thank you very much. I know it took a bit more time, but thank you, Dato'.
Thank you. Thank you, Azlina, for all those initiatives done. And you know that we had all the challenges. Yang ada delima, dia okay. Tapi yang tak ada dilema, dia dilema. Termasuk saya juga. So, dah bersara, so no delima. So you biasa kali pertama dengar istilah Google Meet, Zoom, and also into Moodle. Mula-mula ingat Moodle tu macam satu jenis makanan. Rupa-rupanya platform untuk semua data dan modules and so forth. But it was a great, after whatever has been said, satu perkara yang muncul ialah the learning curve ya bagi semua. Learning curve for students tentang digitalization bagi semua orang yang meningkat, a steep learning curve. Right? Everyone learned a lot. And there are times I have said that maybe, Dato' Norizan ya, I've said this, that mungkin untuk sustain digitalization ni, sekolah 4 hari aja, hari kelima itu is remote learning and teaching. Kalau tidak, segala yang dipelajari in digitalization, probably some of the kids dah mula lupa dah. Sebab tak pakai. Anyway, that's just a thought. I'll stop at that. Juliana, back to you for the way forward, right?
Okay. So responding to the question, we believe that teachers play a very important role in education. The quality of education itself actually comes within the classroom, from the classroom. And that's also the reason why I think, in my opinion, developing a professional learning community that support each other is very important. And that's how we actually transform the needs to our 3 programs. Let me, hang on, just a quick, all right. Okay, so the first change initiative that we think that will promote the professional learning community that put teachers at the heart of education is the Lighthouse School program. So in this program, we adopt schools to be a model schools. So we pick a 2nd tier and even a 3rd tier. We develop a partnership with the local government and the MOE to pick the not the best schools. It's not even a mediocre school, but the schools that has a very low performance. So we assess the schools. We want to know what is actually happening with the teachers, with the system, with the students, and with the community. And after about 3 to 4 years program, what we are doing actually, we provide them with a vision and mission. And we ask the teachers to have a dream. What would you like to have at the end of your class? What would you like to have at the end of the semester? So by doing that, we would like teachers not to only stop within the class, but also go beyond the class. And with this, we also involve community and parents, not only that, but also other organizations that will support the sustainability of the program within the schools. So that is actually the Lighthouse School program that we have been doing so far. The second one is the Teachers Learning Center. So this one is kind of different. We selected teachers, best teachers within the regencies, provinces, because in Indonesia, we've got decentralized education system. So MOE is the national, and then we've got provinces, regencies, cities, that are actually under the supervision of the head of regency itself. So kind of decentralized. Everything will have to be taken care by the regencies and provinces. So what we are doing is that we are selecting best of the best teachers through selections. What are the selections process? We don't really believe in the paper pencil test. So they have to do we have to do classroom observations. We would like to see what is actually happening in your class. Do the students engage each other? How does the teacher motivate the students? How does personalized learning happen in the class? So once we pick the teachers, then we intervene the teachers into 2, 3, or 4 years program depending on the needs, again based on the result of the need assessments. We develop teachers to be the master teachers so they can be facilitator for their own peers. Why we do so? Because we believe, again, the professional learning community should be happening. If they have to keep asking facilitators and resources from Jakarta, for example, it's going to be so costly and it's going to take a long time. We cannot expedite the learning, and that's the reason why they have to be able to be the facilitators, and they have to be able to learn from each other. Because it's unbelievable, if we learn from our peers, it's easier than we have to learn from other people who don't know the context. So this is also where the teachers have to learn how to contextualize the facilitators module. So they have to make their own modules based on the context. The third one, this is happening during the pandemic. So during the pandemic, we received so many messages, asking us so many emails, asking us so many WhatsApps, asking us to assist during the pandemic session. Because they don't know what they are doing. They are so confused. Our teachers were so confused. They don't know how to conduct an online learning effectively. So we developed a platform. While at the same time we also provided them with a coaching sessions. It's a one-on-one. If you ask me, is it tiring? Yes, because we have to assist the teachers one by one, regardless of where they are. And we have like 34 provinces with 34 different cultures, 34 different contexts. We have to be there and assist them. Otherwise, they don't know. Why we do that? Because we really care about the education and we really care about the students. The impact of the learning, we cannot, if the MOE can do lots of things with the initiatives to bridge the gap of the learning loss, we think, in our opinion, we really have to help them at the grassroots. So that's what we are doing. So this is an online teachers platform that connects teachers 34 provinces across Indonesia, and we also have some teachers coming from Malaysia as well. What we are doing here is actually, it's another professional learning community in which the teachers can share to each other. They can do webinars, they can attend the webinars, they can pick and choose trainings that they want. It's a self-paced learning, so they can do the trainings at any time they want, at any pace. So it's a really individualized learning. And after that, they have their own portfolio. So it's a measurable and contextual as well, based on where the teachers come from. And here, if you have a look at those teachers, actually I've never met them because they are our Guru Binar ambassadors. They have been taking our classes, and then they are leveraging their portfolio into the next level. they become our content creators as well. And this is where I said earlier, we develop a professional learning community in which we empower teachers no matter who they are, what their status is. Because in Indonesia, we have civil servant and non-civil servants. No matter what their status is, where they come from, what their capacity is, as long as you would like to learn, you would like to share, then welcome to our professional learning community. Because in my opinion, the professional learning community is the only successful driver to motivate teachers not only in the class, but also outside the class. So I think that's one of the solution that maybe we can adapt from there. Get that to you.
Thank you, Juliana. I think it's very clear for all your initiatives and what you all have done in Indonesia. Let's move on to Edmund.
So the question is, what's the way forward? What can you do as a teacher to help every single one of your children, right? And not let a single one of them fall through the cracks. So that's the question that I will attempt to answer in 5 minutes. Thank you, I'll need it. Okay, so when we started EduNation and we made all these videos, 6,000 videos on all core subjects on maths, physics, biology, chemistry, sejarah, economy asas, all these kind of things, kids watch them, right? And the proof of that is that today we have 195,000 kids on the platform who's actually actively watching all these videos. The problem is, what do we do with kids who are not motivated? Dia tak bersemangat. Dia datang kelas pun tidur. Right? So what do you do with kids like that who are not motivated? Which is why when EduNation was, when we were doing EduNation and we were offering free tuition online through videos, the question is, can we have free tuition in every public school in Malaysia? Can we offer free tuition in all schools? So we did this pilot program where we got kids to stay back after school. No teachers involved, right? So these kids, they are Form 3, they stay back after school, and they help each other in maths, right? So again, no teachers involved, yeah? So we did this pilot program for 7 months. In 7 months, these 50 students from these 2 schools in Klang, their math results went from an average of less than 40, which is G lah, right, FG, to more than 70 average. So from, thank you. I assume that claps for the students lah. So their math results went from 30 plus to 70 plus, No teachers involved, which is, again, aligned with what I'm trying to say about increasing the resources available to you. If you had students staying back after school, they create this community and this club, and we made this whole club thing lah. They got president lah, secretary lah, treasurer lah, apa, and they ran their own club. These 50 students dramatically improved. And imagine, and this means, right, you're no longer the only teacher helping these kids. This means that you have another 30 teachers. And by the way, this is not budak pandai help budak bodoh. This is budak bodoh tolong budak bodoh. No, and you understand the implications of this. You can take a whole group of weak students, and in one of these schools, right? I think the top result was 60 something, right? The rest were like 50, 40, 30, 20. They all came together, help each other, and they all got majority AB. Okay? So, what you can do is to set up an initiative like this. Now, later on, I'll probably pass my contact details if you want. I'll send you the project document and everything, and how we did it, and so on and so forth. And if you want to do it yourself, you can do it. Right? So, we got free tuition online with EduNation. The problem is what happens to unmotivated students, so we had free tuition offline, in schools itself. So the students themselves can kick their friends and say, "Hey, you buat apa ni? Huh? Setiap semester G. Datanglah. So they all come and they all help each other. Okay? Now, the problem is with this pilot program that we did is, sure, students are helping each other. But what if they're really lost? Memang tak faham what to do. Whole class blur. That's why we're developing Tupai, which is a fully autonomous AI teacher. In this case, for math first. Okay? So, with Tupai, and it's amazing, right? We did this pilot program with kids using AI systems to learn math, and they're like, mereka guna bahasa pasar, they use a combination of English and Malay. Just the other day, we tested out in Punjabi. It works, huh? The large language model, in this case, in this test, we used ChatGPT and Wolfram Alpha. System ini, dia boleh bertutur. And the kid, right, there was one kid that was like, can you tell me a joke? And it will try to tell them a joke. So this system works. The problem with this system today and why it's not commercial is that accuracy in teaching maths is only 75%. So our system gets a B for maths, right? So that's the work that we have to do. And there's a few ways we can improve accuracy. Our goal is to, by September next year, we'll have accuracy up to 99%. And then this system can reach your kids, right? Okay. The good news is, with all these initiatives that we talk about, and this AI system is coming soon. When you have an AI teacher helping you, the number of resources available to you is 10 times, 20 times, 30 times. And you plus the free tuition offline, you know, the peer learning group in schools, your resources as a teacher increases dramatically. And the best thing about this is, it costs the MOE nothing. Like, free, no, nothing. Nothing. Literally, which is why we have this focus on community. Even if you need to buy a few licenses, the community can raise the money. That's very simple to do. So it costs nothing to the MOE. You can do it today. And I promise you, even more help is coming to you next year. It starts with math, but in the future, we'll look at other things as well. Right?
Thank you, Edmund. Very interesting to know how the marks go up from 30-something right up to 70. And murid bantu murid, the approach, right? Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to that part of our session, our forum today. Sesi untuk tuan-tuan dan puan-puan untuk mengemukakan soalan ataupun komen ataupun idea terpulang kepada tuan-tuan dan puan-puan. Kita ada masa lebih kurang 15 minit untuk sesi ini. So please share, any question is a good question. Remember that. So saya buka sesi ini untuk ni, you can just raise your hand and the mic will come to you. Yes. Is there a mic for him? Yeah, right in the front here, please. Right in the front.
First and foremost, thank you very much and congratulations to all the panel today. It's very enlightening to see what the panel have shared so far. I have actually two questions. One is directed to Miss, sorry, I didn't get, Miss Juliana from, sorry, my bad. Miss Juliana from Indonesia, and also later on to Dr. Saida. One, I think I just want to listen from you the challenges that you actually face in doing that. That's my first question to you. And my second question to Dr. Saida is like, what is your views of what Indonesia is doing in terms of going forward? That would be my second question. Thank you.
Okay, so the challenges that we face in promoting those three programs is am I correct? Okay, first it's always a mindset, because changing people's mindset, I'm sorry to say, changing teachers' mindset in Indonesia is very, very challenging. First is the mindset, and then second is how we can collaborate together between the MOE, the regencies, the local education, the superintendent, principals, teachers. It's just like we have to be able to communicate and put their best interests in one playground. But we believe that if we have and we share the same vision and missions, all good things will happen. Because when it comes to students, people will see, everyone will see, oh, my student who first is not able to do anything, now they are able to do something. My student who is not able, who is afraid to do presentation, now they are standing there doing the presentation. So everybody is doing toward the same vision. The third one is actually, and this is undeniable, because if the changes of the local education is also the changing of all the regulation. So we really have to start again from zero, communicating and providing advisory from the grassroots all the way up. The fourth one is sharing the same visions and missions again within the school. So whenever we have our implement our programs, we always want to have superintendents and principals and teachers are in the same room, because we believe that sustainability is there. If we don't put all stakeholders in the same room, if we don't hear their opinions, if we don't try to facilitate their needs, then there's not going to be any sustainability. So we always start with what is actually your need. What do you want the school to be once the program ends? So those kind of things are actually our challenges. Aside from that, it's actually technical challenges like internet connection, and then the distance, and then so on and so forth. Then I think it's not going to be a challenge if we can face all of this. Thank you. Hopefully I answer my question. I answer your question well.
Okey. Untuk menjawab soalan, okey. Kita melihat dari segi kemenjadian murid. Banyak aspek yang kita laksanakan adalah untuk at the end of the day untuk melihat kemenjadian murid. Dan untuk itu kumpulan ataupun sumber yang paling penting adalah guru. And every day ataupun from time to time memang guru kita sentiasa memberi sokongan, support kepada guru setakat mana yang kita mampu, and also kita engage juga partners untuk sama-sama untuk memberi support kepada guru. Dan kita selalu kita laksanakan continuous professional development kepada guru untuk memastikan guru-guru kita sentiasa up to date. Kita sentiasa menambahkan kepakaran dan kemahiran guru kita. We upgrade our teachers. In fact, we have banyak ruang untuk guru meningkatkan ataupun membaiki diri sendiri. Ya, in terms of kemahiran mengajar, in terms of kemahiran sendiri seperti melanjutkan pelajaran, and yes, support kepada guru sentiasa diberi supaya guru dapat melaksana PDP, teaching and learning dengan lebih efektif, lebih efisien, ya, dan dapat memastikan at the end of the day kemenjadian murid itu kita dapat capai. Jadi kalau melihat kepada apa yang dilaksanakan oleh Indonesia, ya, we support, dan memang Malaysia juga ada melaksanakan banyak programs untuk meningkatkan profesionalisme guru. Sekian Datuk. So saya harap saya menjawab soalan tadi.
Terima kasih Puan Juliana dan Dr. Nur Saidatul. Okey, kita mengharapkan satu soalan daripada seorang guru. Boleh ditanya dalam bahasa Melayu atau bahasa Punjabi, terpulang kepada anda. One question atau satu soalan atau satu komen. Anyone just raise your hand dalam kalangan guru atau dalam kalangan kepala sekolah. Betul ke istilah itu di Puan Juliana? Kepala sekolah. Kepala sekolah yang ada di sini hari ini. Any question atau komen atau pandangan pun. Just raise your hand and the mic will come to you. Satu soalan saja di bawah Seksyen 16 Akta Dadah Berbahaya. Yeah, here. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat tengah hari. Terima kasih pada ahli panel. Satu saja, saya tak pasti sama ada ini pendapat ataupun soalan. Apa yang kita lihat sepanjang persidangan 2 hari ini dan pada hari ini forum, kita melihat apa yang perlu kita laksanakan selepas sahaja berlaku COVID-19. Dan saya rasa perkara ini sama berlaku di semua sekolah seluruh Malaysia, berkaitan dengan bagaimana kita nak membawa pelajar-pelajar ini. Dan kita melihat sekarang ni, sebahagian daripada murid kita, bagaimana yang doktor sebut tadi adalah usaha daripada kementerian untuk kemenjadian murid. Dalam masa sama, pada pendapat saya, ada sedikit konflik dengan kesejahteraan guru. Dalam kita untuk mencapai kemenjadian murid, tapi ada sedikit konflik dari segi kesejahteraan guru. Sebab boleh saya katakan bahawa isu yang berlaku ialah kalau dilihat dari forum semalam, kemudian apa yang semua nak usaha menarik murid ke sekolah semula. Pertama. Kemudian bagaimana nak memastikan mereka merasa seronok semula berada di sekolah. Kan, dengan pelbagai inovasi dan sebagainya. Jadi kita melihat bahawa boleh saya katakan, saya tak pasti sama ada orang setuju atau tidak setuju, murid sekarang situasi mereka lebih manja. Boleh bersetuju dengan saya? Murid sekarang lebih manja. Atau anak-anak tak setuju? Anak-anak di belakang depan ni. Di sini ada sedikit konflik sebab dengan kebebasan media sosial, dengan situasi kemanjaan ini, kadang-kadang teguran itu dianggap sebagai satu bentuk apa? Kekerasan. Kan? Mungkin tidak dalam bentuk fizikal, tapi dari segi verbal, segi lisan dan sebagainya. Teguran itu sebagai satu bentuk yang keras. Sehingga kan ada istilah anak tak boleh ditegur. Itu yang mungkin sedikit konflik. Mungkin ada kata ini kes terpencil. Tetapi sering dikemukakan dalam akhbar dan diperdebatkan di khalayak. Jadi pada pandangan ahli panel, terserah pada panel, bagaimana kita nak memastikan situasi ini supaya keseimbangan dalam usaha kita nak memastikan kemenjadian murid, keseimbangan mereka dari segi jasmani, emosi, rohani dan intelek. Kadang-kadang kita lebih kepada intelek. Kekuatan jasmani, kekuatan rohani, emosi mereka agak kurang kita tu sebab mereka tak tahan dengan sedikit. Doktor pun tahu kan dulu kita macam mana sekolah kan, situasi memang berubah. Jadi saya serahkan pada ahli panel bagaimana keseimbangan ini perlu antara kemenjadian murid dengan kesejahteraan guru ketika proses PDP. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Terima kasih Tuan. Soalan Tuan, satu soalan tu sudah merangkumi semua soalan-soalan yang ingin ditanya selepas ini. So saya serahkan kepada ahli panel dari sudut mana tuan-tuan dan puan-puan nak menjawab pandangan, termasuk terselit dengan satu soalan kecil di situ, sejauh manakah kebenaran perkara ini. Sememangnya kita tahu kehadiran telah merosot, Tapi kita kena lihat di belakang tirai sebenarnya. Apa yang memungkinkan perkara itu berlaku. Dan bagaimana kita nak mengupas isu itu daripada hanya nak melihat daripada dalam bahasa Inggeris kita sebut scratching the surface. So, who would like to start? Semua orang pandang pada anak murid saya. So,
I'll just start. Maybe rakan-rakan panelis boleh berkongsi. Berkata di sini saya nampak ada dua perkara antara guru dan juga murid. So bagaimana kita nak seimbang kesejahteraan guru dan kemenjadian murid. Dan seperti disebutkan tadi dalam kalangan murid pun tak boleh ditegur. Ya, itu salah satu contoh. Baik. Saya nak balik kepada 7 teras. Itu yang saya sebutkan tadi. 7 teras ni dia nama pun teras. So dari sini kita akan develop ataupun kita akan panjangkan kepada inisiatif-inisiatif mengikut keperluan. Baik, teras kedua berkaitan karamah insaniah. Dalam teras kedua, fokus utamanya adalah pembentukan karakter murid. Jadi di sini yang kita faham murid ni ada pelbagai and untuk membentukkan karakter itu bukanlah sesuatu yang mudah. So di bawah teras ini pelbagai inisiatif telah kita lihat ya daripada isu-isu yang timbul untuk kita cuba atasi. Kalau kita tak dapat selesai pun at least kita dapat minimizekan isu yang berlaku. Jadi di bawah teras karamah insaniah ni memang apa yang seperti yang Tuan Pengetua cikgu sebutkan tadi memang kita dah ambil kira. Kita dengar apa yang sekolah-sekolah dengar, di kementerian pun dengar sebenarnya isu-isu murid ni. Dan itu berkaitan dengan murid. Jadi insya-Allah since 7 teras ni baru lagi. Ini baru tahun pertama. Jadi kita sedang monitor dan insya-Allah kita akan lihat. Dan hasilnya kalau kita nak lihat murid ni dia bukanlah overnight. Dia mungkin mengambil masa untuk kita melaksanakan pembentukan karakter. Baik, perkara yang kedua berkaitan guru juga ada diambil kira dalam 7 teras. Di bawah teras kelima iaitu kebajikan guru. Dan untuk guru memang Kementerian Pendidikan sangat-sangat memberi perhatian dan sangat-sangat mengambil berat tentang kebajikan guru. Banyak inisiatif pelbagai inisiatif dilaksanakan. Tetapi kita pun faham kita ada 400,000 lebih guru ya, dan ada satu kementerian sahaja dan dengan 16 jabatan pendidikan. So memang satu sumber manusia yang besar, tapi kita di bawah teras ni insya-Allah kita akan, in fact kita telah pun mula mengeluarkan ataupun melaksanakan beberapa inisiatif untuk kita mengatasi guru-guru, memastikan guru bekerja dalam suasana yang kondusif, menjaga kesejahteraan guru dan lain-lain. Jadi dua perkara ini memang dalam perhatian kementerian. Thank you, Datuk.
Terima kasih Dr. Nur Saidatul. Tadi soalannya merangkumi semua soalan-soalan lain. Jawapannya merangkumi semua jawapan panel yang lain. Tapi saya nak tambah sedikit. Bila Tuan sebut, dalam banyak webinar, saya selalu kongsikan perkara ini. Think Maslow before Bloom. Kalau kita ingat hierarki Maslow, Abraham Maslow, asas the physiological needs, kasih sayang dan sebagainya, sebelum kita ke peringkat self-actualization. Jadi kita kadang-kadang kena tackle the fundamentals. Tanya murid kita lapar atau tidak. Daripada nak tanya dia tentang Pythagoras theorem. Marah Edmund pada saya nanti. Right? But before we can even talk about Benjamin Bloom, let's address what Maslow has said. So perkara itu harus kita ketengahkan di sekolah. What's happening at home? Sememangnya kita berhasrat nak dapat kehadiran sepenuhnya seperti dahulu kala. Tapi selepas pandemik ini, memang nak menarik minat murid, nak membawa semangat cikgu ke peringkat yang terbaik, yang menyerlah, yang optimum. Itu juga memerlukan satu pendekatan yang berbeza. Kita kadang-kadang terpaksa menggunakan the spectrum of empathy. kerana nak memahami situasi. Itu satu cabaran bukan saja di negara kita, di banyak negara yang lain. Kalau kita kata, oh ada orang bersara awal di negara kita, jangan takut, di negara lain pun ramai bersara awal. So, problems are, Juliana betul So, it's right, Tetapi kita nak buat sesuatu untuk bina sistem pendidikan yang terbaik, right? So tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, kita sampai ke penghujung sesi kita, dan untuk penghujung sesi kita ni, saya nak kata muktamad daripada ahli panel kita dalam 1 atau 2 minit. What are their parting words? Dalam sesi kita hari ini, ada guru, ada stakeholders, dan juga ada murid, ada pemimpin sekolah, ada policy makers dan sebagainya. So, saya nak mula dengan Edmund. Your parting 1 minute statement atau 2 minute statement.
I just want to leave you with the thought that you can help every child. You can. I understand how difficult it is and how frustrating it is not to be able to do that right now. But I assure you it is possible, right? And you can start. Thanks. She's very encouraging. You can start. And in just a few years from now, I believe you'll have so much teaching resources available to you that you can definitely help every child that walks through your classroom doors and goes out. Thank you.
Thank you, Edmund. Very encouraging words. We like that. Yes, Juliana.
Okay, my closing statement will be for all the teachers here, all stakeholders, whatever your role is, you gotta do it first with commitment to start and do it consistently, because commitment is always what makes us start, but being consistent is what keeps us going to meet the objective of our life. Thank you.
Edmund said there is hope. Juliana said let's be consistent, right? Azlina.
I just wanted to say that in your hands, really, right? I know that unlike any other profession, there's a lot of scrutiny towards education and educators. No one will ever go into the health system getting a surgery and then coming out and saying, oh, this is what you should do in Ministry of Education. But just because people send children to school, have been in school, everybody has an opinion about education, right? And so sometimes that professionalization of the education system is somehow a bit challenging. So, but everybody seems to have an opinion. So I also understand when cikgu have a lot of stress, and mental health of teachers is one of the key emerging area post-COVID. But I also say, while we are all working together to see how we can also help, but there are certain gaps, right? Either in terms of skills, either in terms of competing priorities, etc., etc. That is something that as an education system, partners, we are looking at to help teachers, to help with your mental well-being. But I also would like you to think about a child who, with your influence, and all of us will have stories about a teacher that changed our lives. And you are that person for a child, right? So when you feel a bit hopeless, when you feel tired, and I know you will, because you are there doing all that work with 40, 50 children at one time, I hope you remember that you have that potential to change the trajectory of a child's life. And you know, I always have very soft spot for teachers, because I think you really are the ones who have the potential to change the lives of children. So I would like to say this on behalf of children who hope, who dream, and who are eager to learn. I thank you all for being champions for children.
From hope, we move to consistency. From consistency, we move to the relentless pursuit of perfection. Even though we know it's not easy to achieve that perfection, as Lina, and the Japanese call it Kodawari. From Kaizen of continuous improvement, we move to the relentless pursuit of perfection. The process of getting towards perfection is important. Of course, there's nothing that can we say perfect, right? Can be in a perfect condition. Yes, Dr. Saidatul.
Just sedikit saja daripada saya. Murid ceria, guru bahagia, sekolah bitara, negara sejahtera. Kita semua main peranan penting untuk mencapai hasrat ini. Ini bukan saja hasrat Kementerian Pendidikan, tetapi hasrat kita semua. So let us all work together. We cooperate in order to achieve this. Dan last but not least, anak baik lagi cerdik. No matter how advanced we are, how much we transform, we must not leave the values behind. Sekian, Datuk. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Dr. Nur Saidatul. From hope, we moved to consistency. From consistency, we went for the relentless pursuit of perfection, Kodawari. But to get all that, we need to work together, right? So, before I end my closing remarks, Logan, can you just put on that one slide that I have? If you look at this slide, you will realize that everyone is represented dalam slide ini. Kotak yang nampak macam warna biru itu is all about leadership in schools. Kotak yang warna hijau adalah di dalam sistem peringkat daerah, negeri atau di kementerian. You have your experts, whether they are in assessment atau dalam curriculum atau secara umumnya, secara amnya. Dan yang di bawah, kotak yang besar, mereka lah Yayasan Amir, LeapEd, Edvolution, semua yayasan-yayasan yang lain, university, Parent Teacher Association, PIBG, community, syarikat yang boleh membantu apa? Tunjang yang ada di tengah. Apa tunjangnya? Leadership in schools plus system leadership plus stakeholder leadership akan menghasilkan high student performance plus improve school outcomes. Macam Dr. Nur Saidatul sebut, it's everyone to be involved. The way forward. Transformation for the way forward involves everyone. And my parting statement is this. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a nation to build an education system. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a nation to build an education system. With that, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada semua ahli panel kita pada pagi ini, pada tengah hari ini sekarang, dan kepada semua para peserta yang hadir bagi persidangan ini, bagi forum ini. Terima kasih kerana memberi tumpuan yang sepenuhnya. Remember, it's the magic of listening and being listened to. Saya orang mengatakan reading is thinking. Daripada forum hari ini, listening is thinking. So please do your reflection tentang apa yang disebut hari ini, dan saya rasa kita semua mempunyai niat yang baik untuk sistem pendidikan kita. So satu tepukan untuk semua ahli panel kita. Dan terima kasih kepada Yayasan Amir dan semua yang terlibat dalam menganjur persidangan hari ini termasuk forum. Dan kepada semua guru, murid, kepala sekolah, terima kasih kerana anda menyokong sistem pendidikan, dan pemimpin maupun anda berada di JPN, di PPD ataupun di kementerian. Sekian, terima kasih. Kepada bos-bos saya yang lepas, Datuk Norizan Bapu, thank you bos. Right.
Terima kasih kepada Tuan Moderator, Datuk Dr. Mehender Singh dan para panelis. Sebagai tanda penghargaan kepada moderator dan ahli forum, kami mohon semuanya masih kekal di atas pentas untuk majlis penyampaian cenderahati. Bagi menyempurnakan acara ini, majlis dengan segala hormatnya menjemput Yang Mulia Raja Tan Sri Datuk Sri Arsyad bin Raja Tun Uda, Pengerusi Ahli Lembaga Pemegang Amanah Yayasan Amir, yang turut diiringi oleh Encik Wan Muhammad Rudaini bin Wan Ludin, Penolong Pengarah Unit Pengurusan Transformasi Pendidikan, Sektor Perancangan dan Pengoperasian Pendidikan, Bahagian Pengurusan Sekolah Harian, dan Puan Razila binti Muhammad Rafi, Ketua Penolong Pengarah Kanan Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Selangor. Dijemput penerima cenderahati yang pertama, yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Mehanda Singh selaku Moderator Forum. Cenderahati ini adalah hasil kerja murid yang telah disediakan secara berkumpulan oleh adik Kumarasan, adik Vishvita, adik Kirtana dan adik Tishwari dan adik Durgasri. Mereka adalah murid darjah 6 dari Sekolah Kebangsaan jenis Tamil Ladang Batu Ampat. Tajuk lukisan ini adalah bunga teratai yang dihasilkan menggunakan bahan kita semula dari sudu plastik.
Seterusnya, dipersilakan Puan Juliana dari Yayasan Sampoerna selaku ahli panel forum untuk menerima cenderahati. Cenderahati ini adalah hasil kerja murid yang telah disediakan oleh dua orang adik, iaitu Aidura Amalina dan Aimi Khairina. Mereka adalah murid darjah 6 dari Sekolah Kebangsaan Sunway. Tajuk lukisan ini adalah TS String Art. Cenderahati ini adalah seni kraft tangan daripada gabungan pelbagai teknik, iaitu teknik memaku dan menganyam tali untuk dijadikan satu imej. Penerima cenderahati yang seterusnya adalah Puan Azlina, ahli panel forum dari UNICEF. Cenderahati ini adalah hasil kerja murid yang telah disediakan oleh adik Nur Syakirin Ashifah binti Zulkifli, murid darjah 6 Belian dari Sekolah Kebangsaan Desa Pandan. Tajuk lukisan ini adalah Sesuci Salju.
Seterusnya dijemput Mr. Edmund, ahli panel forum dari Tupai.ai untuk menerima cenderahati hasil daripada nukilan adik Aisyah Humaira binti Abdul Qayyum tahun 45 dari Sekolah Kebangsaan Desa Pandan, Selangor. Tajuk lukisan ini adalah Laman Herba Warisan Alam.
Akhir sekali, dijemput Puan Nur Saidatul selaku ahli panel forum dari Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia untuk menerima cenderahati seterusnya. Cenderahati ini adalah hasil kerja murid yang telah disediakan oleh adik Cik Ku Putri Airi Sofia binti Cik Ku Azmi, murid darjah 5 dari Sekolah Kebangsaan Desa Pandan. Tajuk lukisan ini adalah Kampungku Permai. Diminta semua ahli forum yang berada di atas pentas untuk mengambil gambar kenangan bersama dengan Yang Mulia Raja Tan Sri Encik Wan Muhammad Rudaini dan Puan Razila.
Demikianlah berakhirnya sesi cenderahati itu tadi. Terima kasih diucapkan kepada Yang Mulia Raja Tan Sri Encik Wan Muhammad Rudaini dan Puan Razila.